We just need Scott, right?
What's up?
Is Scott on yet?
I don't think so.
Who? Think I'm just now joining. There he is.
There you
Oh,
are.
sweet.
Hey, folks.
Hey.
And he's
From
in there
that-
making popcorn or something.
You. Yeah.
I would share a little bit of it.
Oh, absolutely.
Join. Here's the other part of the beautiful view.
Hello.
Oh, hey. Nice.
Hello. Hello.
Is that Hannah? What's up, Hannah?
Hey. Nothing much. Just got back from my run, so I'm ready for some wine.
Awesome.
All about balance.
You got Harry in the call too.
Harry and
Great.
Jillian there.
Got Lisa. Let's
guys.
see. Let's go through the roster here. We got Josh. Cool. We got quite the crew to begin this. And then before we begin, so Jake, were you able to do just share it or?
Yeah, we're up and running in the group now, so I just shared yours in the group, so we're good. We can rock and roll if everybody's here.
Sweet.
Yeah, we're doing Facebook Live now, I guess. All right.
All right. So
Jake, you want to kick us off?
everybody,
And get people to mute their lines and stuff?
Yes, sir. Okay, well, welcome to our Austin, Texas Wine Society and Wanderlust Wine Company virtual wine tasting. We've been doing this for the past 2-3 weeks now. So this week we kicked off two or three of these events this week. My name is Jake Roos. I'm one of the founders of the Austin, Texas Wine Society. So I'm going to let Richard introduce himself and then go down the line and we'll get this thing started.
Hey guys, I'm Richard Darval, also one of the founders of the Austin, Texas Wine Society, along with Josh, his brother. And so I took the SOM training about 10 years ago. Didn't actually take the third one. They didn't offer in Austin, but I passed my second, which included blind taste and 6 essays and 100 multiple choice questions. So I felt like it, gave me a fairly decent education for the last 10 years. And just a real love of a lot of things that I've never tasted before. Also really, really excited about how wine pairs with food. And so, this is just fun for me. I put together a presentation. I was a little tight for time this week. I still have my day job, even though I never leave home. But put together a presentation for you guys, and then we'll get into Scott talking about his beautiful wines. And if you guys would like to put something a little bit about yourselves, just put it. That'd be terrific. Let's see here. All right, there. All right, can you guys see this?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So our varietal series. This time it's Pinot Noir. We've done Tempranillo a couple times already. Some from Spain, some from Texas, and so now we're on to one of my favorites, which is Pinot Noir. The Tempranillos were some eye openers there. That's again brought to you by the Austin, Texas Wine Society. We've got our website up there, and of course Wanderlust help us get our wines. And we got a celebrity wine guest, Scott Shull, founder, wine grower at Raptor Ridge Winery. Start off with Pinot Noir. It's actually anybody's taking a little French. Obviously, it's easy. You've got pine and black. It's because of the tight, small pine cone shaped clusters of Pinot Noir. I always like to know what the things, what the words, what the concepts are for anything that I come across. And so, I always like to know what it looks like, where it comes from exactly in the world, in the map, etc. What I didn't know until like today was that Pinot Noir is one of the oldest grapes in the world. It's estimated to be 1,000 years older than Cabernet Sauvignon. It's been documented in France since the Roman era, which I thought was pretty cool. Considering that it's a hard little grape to make wine from, it's been around for a very long time. Pinot Noir family of grapes, there's Pinot in a lot of different things. It's because it's prone to mutation. So you've got Pinot Noir, Pinot Gris, Pinot Blanc, and they're all, mutations of Pinot. It is famously one of the 3 grapes used in classic Champagne. It's actually the most widely used grape in Champagne. Variety is considered hard to grow. I remember that from sound training. I mean, it is prone to all kinds of rot and pests, and it's thin-skinned, and so it's a hard grape to grow, but gives you some of the best stuff to drink in the world. I just like these 2 particular quotes. Out of Vanity Fair magazine, he calls it the most romantic of wines, with voluptuous perfume, so sweet an edge and so powerful a punch. It's like falling in love. They make the blood run hot and the soul wax embarrassingly poetic. That's like, yum, Pinot Noir. And then Master Somm Madeline Triffin just called it sex in a glass. I just really like that. It's not just in Burgundy anymore. I mean, Pinot Noir, the home is in Burgundy, France, but particularly Côte d'Or, where it actually goes into some of the most expensive wines in the world. I remember back in 2000, Wine Spectator magazine it had a bottle of Domaine de la Romanée-Conti, and it just put the words "heaven on earth," and it's one of the most expensive of the Pinot Noir wines. But the U.S. increasingly has become a major Pinot Noir producer, and some of the best regarded, and some of the ones I really, really love from Willamette Valley in Oregon. You get the beautiful scent, the elegance from their wines. Just to give you an idea of where, in Oregon we're talking about, it's the Willamette Valley between, you've got Portland, you've got Salem, you've got Albany, and I put a little circle around. I think where some of the grapes that we're tasting tonight come from. Characteristics: fruit, cherry, raspberry, I think strawberry in there, earthy notes mentioned, mushroom, leather, truffle, gamey undertones, particularly in the Burgundies, spice, clove, vanilla, hibiscus, cacao. I mean, it's chocolate. I've actually, had it in some. Usually a dry style, it's medium body, low tannins. In order to get some of the tannins up, some of the makers will actually use, throw in the stems to try to get the tannins up in some cases. It's medium-high acid, and you usually find them from 11.5 to 13.5 in alcohol content. Food pairings, classic pairings of pork and duck and game, and in Burgundy, beef bourguignon. Fruity versions match really well with salmon. I've had it quite a bit with salmon, roast chicken, and pasta. This is how we're going to go through our tasting. Look at it, swirl it, sniff it, sip it, and then savor it. And so now we can actually just go to the gentleman that is responsible for this wonderful Raptor Ridge. So Scott, if you'd like to take it from there.
And everybody, I just wanted to see and make sure we already have some wine in our glass. If not, this is the perfect time to put some of this sex in a glass. Scott, how do you, like from what Richard was saying, how do you bottle sex in a bottle? How do you do? What's the magic?
That's a trade secret.
Oh, okay.
You get it in the glass. I get it in the bottle.
Well,
that was a great introduction. In fact, maybe where I'll start is back on that map that we saw of the Willamette Valley. Since we're talking about Oregon, Northern Oregon, I am going to try to share my screen, and I'm going to go, I think, probably need to go like full screen on this.
There you go. Yeah, we can see it.
Cool. So thank you for showing us that quick overview of Oregon, second down from the left on the Pacific coast. But you zoomed in on the northern Willamette Valley, where that's our oldest American viticultural area. The Willamette Valley is probably around 40 years ago coined and recorded with the federal government. And then around 12 years ago, the very collaborative team of wine growers here in Oregon documented other important areas, other AVAs, and submitted them to the feds all on the same day. That's just how collaborative things are in Oregon. No one of them to one up the other. So, as mentioned, Chehalem Mountains, Ribbon Ridge, Yamhill Carlton, McMinnville, Dundee Hills, Eola Amity, and then out here is the newly minted AVA just last year. The Van Duzer AVA was added to these. I have an entire hour-long presentation, which I'm not going to give you tonight, that talks about the geologic history that shaped this area. But the 10-second summary is this is one of the most diverse areas of soil, wind, and microclimate, all shaped by volcanic action, by tectonic plate movement. And so within about a 40-mile drive either way, you can have dramatically different growing areas. And if I click the slide once, I've added X's to the map. You can see where Raptor Ridge is. And then all of these X's are places that I farm in that 40-mile range from where we are at Raptor Ridge. So I have leased particular blocks and particular clones of wine for 25 years now. And mostly Pinot Noir, yes, but also Chardonnay. We do several vineyard-designated Chardonnays. If you want to get really geeky, we do an Auxerrois from Zenith Vineyard, and Pinot Gris, of course. And we make vineyard-designated wines from each of these vineyards, and they're all, of course, identifiable as Pinot Noir, members of the Pinot family. But they're, because of the different soil, wind, microclimate, they present themselves as unique personalities. What we're doing in our glass tonight is each of these is farmed to make the best product for that site. And each block is usually a different clone of Pinot. As we heard, it's highly mutable. And so even though the base grape is Pinot Noir, growers and researchers around the world have identified characteristics and assigned a name or a clone number to the wine. I'm particularly fond of the Pommard clone, isolated in the Pommard village region of Burgundy. But there are also Dijon clones that have sexy names like 777 or 113. These were identified at the University of Burgundy, Dijon, and we've been in the New World. We've been able to get cuttings, make sure that they're disease-free, and then graft them or plant them into these sites. So I'm farming these block by block, clone by clone. We harvest when they're perfectly ripe. We don't just go into one vineyard and, as it's convenient, harvest it all that one day. We may go in, start in, and over a 2-week period, harvest this block and then another block. We ferment them separately, and then we'll separate the free-run juice out of the fermentation from the press juice that comes out of the wine press, and that gets settled and drained into barrels. And so we'll end up with different barrels as well, different coopers, different forests, all French oak, different age of barrel. So at the end of the day, I end up with something like 300 barrels of Pinot Noir. And it's a tough job, but Shannon and I have to go through and taste every barrel probably about 4 times a year to guide its raising, its so-called élevage. And we start getting a feeling for the personality of each barrel of Pinot and how we might assemble it. What is the Barrel Select? As the name says, we're selecting components from all across this array of barrels to bring you a taste of the Willamette Valley in the glass. So how can we give you that consistent Oregon Willamette Valley experience year after year. That's the job of Barrel Select from Raptor Ridge. So that's the long-winded story of what we're doing, and now I think it's time to taste and talk about it and see what you guys think.
Yeah.
We've been making this particular approach to Pinot for 8 years now. We used to make a wine called Reserve, and then we had an entry-level Willamette Valley, and we could never keep enough of them in stock. They would always sell out. The Reserve was a much more expensive wine than the Willamette Valley, but they both seemed to be received equally well by the wine drinking community and of course the wine critics. So they had similar scores. What we decided to do back in 2012 was to combine the two components, the vineyard programs, and to apply this approach that I just described and create something that would last about a year or so in the marketplace before we were able to release the next vintage. So you, depending on where you shop there in Austin or wherever you're tasting tonight, you may find a different vintage out there on the shelves. 16, 17, maybe some 15s are still out there. But the notion is that consistency, as much as we can, given the fact that Oregon does have vintages. Let me shut up and see if there's any thoughts or questions or impressions that y'all have about the Barrel Select.
It's delicious.
It's beautiful. Scott, actually, I wanted to see if you can show us one more time the beautiful vineyards that are right behind you. We're pretty jealous right now. It's a little bit of a cloudy and rainy day down here. It's almost like we traded climates.
Here we go. So I want to start sharing my screen. The red, and we should be back.
Wow. Yeah. As someone that has visited Raptor Ridge in Oregon, I say you should make it if you're really there for a couple of days, make it one of your first stops. It's not too far away from Portland to visit their vineyard site. The people there are great. The wines clearly are delicious, and those views are great here, but 10 times better in person.
Thank you. So let's see. I'm pointing straight south now. Here at the Raptor Ridge Estate. So as you can tell, the vine rows are oriented north to south. This is so when the sun rises in the morning, it warms up and dries off one side of my solar panel, otherwise known as the vine canopy. And as it sets in the afternoon, it photosynthesizes the other side of the solar collector. As I was saying, I'm not sure if the video camera is sharp enough to pick up the view of Mount Hood in the distance.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So on a clear day like today, we have Mount Hood straight east, and then just over the hills that are between us and Portland, Mount Adams, Mount St. Helens, whose top 1,500 feet blew off the year I moved to Oregon. And it's starting to become a little hazy. We can see all the way up to Seattle to Mount St. Helens. So not only is it a gorgeous view, but kind of to the point, these are all dormant volcanoes, some of them not dormant. There's still active fumaroles on all of them. They're part of that geologic history that created many of the soil types from which the wines are derived, mostly volcanic or some sort of basalt parent material. Some of the areas that I showed on the map are actually ancient seafloor that has been uplifted. 20 million years ago, you could have a pretty nice little ocean cruise right here. This was all underwater until it was uplifted. So some of the vineyards are sandstone, very well drained, very poor soil. This site is a kind of a hybrid of that. It's an old volcano. You dig down about 2 or 3 feet, you get this deep red soil. I think you guys know what that red dirt looks like down there in in Texas and certainly in Oklahoma. That's all iron oxide, old volcanic material that's decomposed. The top 2 feet are this gray, it's like talcum powder. It's rock flour. And that rock did not originate here in Oregon. In fact, it's very young. It's only 15,000 years old, which is a blink of an eye in geologic time. That stuff is granite that was tumbled and ground into this talcum powder like rock flour. And it was washed down the Columbia River by a wall of water thought to be 300 feet high when an ice dam broke up in Canada and Montana. This didn't happen just once. It happened, they think, 30, 40 times during the last ice age. So that rock flour has been deposited on top of the volcanic material. So here at Raptor Ridge Estate, we have a hybrid soil, somewhat sedimentary, somewhat volcanic, and you get, it shows in the Pinot being so different from on our estate versus some of those others that go into the blend. Where's my glass of wine?
Yeah, to that note, actually, could you talk? So, like I love how the terroir, the actual soil, the microclimates influence Pinot Noir and make it so distinct from site to site. And we're tasting this sort of, we're tasting this picture of Willamette Valley year to year, but you make some single vineyards as well that really take advantage of those distinct soil variations. Can you, I guess, just talk briefly about what each soil sort of brings to each Pinot?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start from vineyards far away and work our way home here to the estate. Down south of here is the Eola Amity Hills. That is ancient volcano. So it does share some of that Jory soil, that red iron soil that promotes like a spicy note and a darker blackberry, blueberry suggestion in the Pinot. But also in the Eola Hills are these tremendous winds that come raging in through the Oregon coast. We talked about the newly created Van Duzer AVA. It's named after the Van Duzer corridor. It's a low-lying notch in the coast range of mountains that blocks us from the cold rain that is the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean is only about 50 miles from here. So that wind comes in and hits the Eola Hills every night about 4 o'clock in the afternoon and dramatically cools off. It just scours the heat out of there. You get these large, they're called diurnal swings, this fancy word for the change between night and day and what's the difference in temperature. But they can have a 40-degree shift. It can be a late August day. It could be 100 degrees at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And by nightfall, it'll be 50 degrees, maybe in the low 60s. That slows down the ripening, that preserves the acidity, and which drives freshness and length and a longer palate taste in the wine. So I love getting fruit from Crawford Beck, Zenith Vineyard, and Temperance Hill in the Eola Amity Hills. Temperance Hill in particular is a bottling that is distributed in Texas. It's a 30-year-old vineyard, been farmed organically since day one. About 20 years ago, they thought to actually get it certified. So it's been certified organic for like 21 years now. But that wind also, in addition to preserving acidity, I kind of anthropomorphize here. The grapes put on a thicker coat to stay warm in those cold night winds. The skins are markedly thicker and darker. They have more anthocyanin. So you'll get darker color and a richer, more structured tannin from those thicker skins that come from the Eola. Okay, let's drive north a little bit. We're going to cross the valley and come up to the McMinnville AVA. And here we farm a couple of vineyards. One of them we farm exclusively to make rosé. So if you get a Raptor Ridge rosé, it's an intentional product. It's not a Saunier. It's not a byproduct of trying to concentrate the real wine we care about. No, where our rosé is from own-rooted Pomard clone grapes, whole cluster pressed. So you get this racing acidity, this freshness, and this floral note from that. But another important vineyard that we've leased for, this is our 21st vintage now, with Meredith Mitchell Vineyard. Again, Pomard clone, that I told you I love. Own-rooted, meaning it has not been grafted onto disease-resistant rootstock. It is at risk and other things that could totally destroy the vineyard. So we're very careful about going in and out of the vineyard, and we clean every piece of equipment, clean our boots with Clorox and water. And the Meredith Mitchell Vineyard is in volcanic soil. Here, the volcanic soil is extremely old. It's thought to be an ancient volcano that formed underwater when Oregon was submerged, 200 million years ago, and it was uplifted. So this is, the older the rock, the more decomposed and fractured it is, and a different geologic event, different mineral and chemical composition to that. And this ridge on which Meredith Mitchell is planted is an ancient lava flow. So when we're out there farming it, there's more rock than there is dirt. It just destroys the cultivators and the equipment we use to keep the grounds the way we want them. And consequently, those vines struggle so hard, it naturally produces like half the crop that other vineyards that we lease do. The vines are struggling so hard. The clusters are so small, the berries are so small. All of that results in deep, powerful concentration. So our Meredith Mitchell bottling is more like, it's more like a Syrah, Pinot Noir masquerading as Syrah, if you will. And so it's not necessarily my favorite. My personal favorite isn't that style, but it's a lot of fun and it's interesting. And we've got clients all over the nation. In fact, there's a hunting lodge outside of Houston called the Big Easy that imports a couple of cases every so often for their clients up there. Probably not too far from Austin, about midway. And they love that because I think they're big into steakhouse kind of service there as their cuisine. So that Pinot goes really well with that. Okay, coming back a little closer to home, we're into the Yamhill Carlton region, and here we farm Grand Moraine, Shea Vineyard, Atticus Vineyard, Goodrich Vineyard. This area is the ancient seafloor that I talked about. So no lava here. It's all sandstone, old uplifted bottom of the sea, very well drained. The wines here are, I think, more in a blackberry, darker fruit, kind of jammy notes. There's so little water in that sandstone that, again, the grapes struggle to produce canopy, and that's perfect. We don't want them in that vegetal state. We want them focused on the fruit. And so we get these nice kind of blueberry and blackberry aromas, that jammy note with good acidity. This area is a rain shadow. I talked about this coast range that blocks the Pacific Ocean. On the west side of that coast range, 50 miles from here, is technically a rainforest. It rains over 100 inches of rain a year, about 115 on average, 115 inches a year. That coastal range strafes off most of that moisture. And as the storms come across, they've been squeezed and they haven't reformed yet. There's a rain shadow, and that is the Yamhill Carlton area. So it's very dry. They may get 40 inches of rain a year. So over half the moisture has just been drained off by that coast range. And then before the clouds can regroup and start raining again, they've passed over the Willamette Valley. So we're actually a very dry area. Coming a little closer to home, we're back into the Chehalem Mountains and Ribbon Ridge. This area is not one thing. Chehalem Mountains is the largest AVA, and its expanse covers so more square miles and more vineyards than any other. And the soils here are very diverse. So it's mostly an underlayment of volcano. The eastern reaches of it, where we are here at Raptor Ridge, are kind of the side of the dam that took that water flow that came in 15,000 years ago, the Missoula flood. And so it's complexed by the sedimentary soil and the loess, that ground up rock flour that's been deposited here and there on the eastern slopes. Loess is the same kind of soil that is prevalent in the finest wine growing regions of Austria. And if you groove on Austrian Gruner Veltliners, you need to try our Gruner. We also distribute a Gruner Veltliner, which I planted about 1.5 acres of down here, because of the notion that we've got this same kind of rock flour loess soil that they had in Austria. Really just kind of a lark. Let's give it a try. And it's ended up becoming one of our most important components of our portfolio. We make about 500 cases a year of the Gruner Veltliner. The western and southern side of the Chehalem Mountain, again, has two different soil types. We work with Olenek Vineyard, and that is an area we call the slide. So this old volcano must have gone through some kind of cataclysmic earthquake event. That whole face of that mountain cracked and has slid off and tumbled. And so down in the lower bench, as you walk through the vineyard, we call it the ankle breaker because it's just these round boulders like cobblestones in an old creek. And the vineyards there are growing in that broken, rounded basalt. But here it's newer volcanic material, unlike what was on in McMinnville. To me, it just has kind of a different flavor. It's less of that deep, dark structure, and it's more bright, red cherry fruit, floral notes. So we love Olenek Vineyard as a component in the blend. Who am I missing, Annie? She thinks I got it all. Well, anyway, I just went through some of the wines we work with, the vineyards we work with, and tried to tie it to each of these AVAs.
Very cool. So notice there's a good amount of wood tannin in this. What kind of barrels do you use?
Well, it's all French oak, but in all of our bottlings, I'm not too much into the taste of new French oak. If you taste wine from a new barrel, you'll get a lot of vanilla, a lot of sweetness, a lot of these brown spice rack flavors, clove, cinnamon, nutmeg. All of that is from new French oak barrels and the level of toast they've received. We work with about 5 different coopers, and a couple of them are making barrels to our recipe, or put it better, they come here and taste. I send them wine samples, we discuss, and they will build barrels and toast them to what I'm trying to achieve.
Wow.
Yeah. Cool. The Barrel Select, it's probably around like 28% new French oak intensity. What does that mean? When a barrel's brand new, if I fill it with freshly fermented juice, that wine would be considered 100% new French oak, and then emptied for the next vintage. And then when that's filled again, we'll consider that 50% new French oak. It's been used once. And then the next year, 25%, and then 12.5%, and on ad nauseum. So it's common in the wine industry, and we adhere to the metric of oak intensity. We calculate the component of oak intensity from all the barrels that we've selected for the Barrel Select, and then give you that metric. So it's about 28% new French oak. So it's as if roughly 1 in 4 were new. So the tannins that you're getting are exactly from something you said earlier. We love playing with whole cluster fermentation, and it's vintage by vintage.
Right.
We'll look at the wine chemistry. We're also looking at how much the stems have ripened, and we'll chew on the stems. We don't want bitterness or herbaceousness, but if the stems have nicely lignified and started to turn brown, you chew on them, it's more like if you're a tea lover, if you like a nice brown tea, you get those kind of notes. That's when you know that tannins are riper. So we'll do anywhere from, usually we're about 25% whole cluster to some experiments we're doing are 100% whole cluster, but usually it's around 25 or 30%. We take the hand harvested grape cluster and we will load that into the bottom of the fermenter, and then we'll destem the rest of that lot on top of it. So you've got this mass of intact clusters at the bottom of the fermenter that will they'll kind of ferment in a carp way. So the berry is protecting seeds from wine, so it's a way of avoiding bitterness in the wine. But the stems are adding back a different kind of tannin and spice note to the overall cuvee. And it also kind of changes the chemistry a little bit. You would think, if it's tannic, it's going to be harder, sharper, more acidic. But actually, there's a lot of potassium stems as well, and they'll mitigate the acidity. They'll actually raise the pH of the overall vat of wine, and a higher pH will give you softer and broader delivery on the palate. So we love whole cluster for what the tannins do, for what the stems do themselves, and for the spices we get from it.
I remember from the movie Sideways talking about a Pinot, and he said, we put in the grapes. They probably put in the grapes, the stems, mice,
snakes.
Yeah.
Everything that we put in the fermenter is we work very hard to make sure it's just the grape. In fact, we sort things 3 times before they go into the fermenter. Through our if you've ever visited here, you've seen our processing line, and there's 3 stages where we first start dumping the grape onto the shaker table, and that's one sort, and then it goes onto a conveyor table, which is a second sort, and it goes through the destemmer, and out the destemmer we're still pulling out the little jacks, and every step of the way we're taking the mice out.
It was just a very unexpected line.
Hey, Scott. I'm a big fan of screw caps on wine for the majority of wines, and I love that yours is. But Pinot can be an ageable wine. How do you balance ageability and screw caps?
About 5 years ago, the screw cap industry invented a breathable seal. And so I actually have the ability to, when I order each vintage of screw cap, to specify the gas permeability that I want. So it's not like the old screw cap where it was hermetically sealed. And the knockoff from screw caps in the old days was exactly your point, where the wines really wouldn't, they'd age beautifully, but they'd age so slowly. Right. And then I'm of the school of thought that says if you've got a tannin load in a young wine, it needs some level of micro oxygenation. And so I can dial in by my taste of the vintage the gas permeability of that seal.
Yeah, that's I wasn't aware that they'd reached that by now, which is great. And I noticed when it first came out, it was sort of very distinct flavors, but given a couple of minutes of swirling, and it really blended sort of. And is that part of the oxygenation process that you're talking about? Basically, I mean, obviously not micro when I poured it, but.
I mean, the wines are even under this membrane. They're it's like a high-end cork in terms of if you've ever ordered a Super Tuscan or something, and the cork seems like it's about 3 inches long, and it is. Very little air gets through that length of cork, and so that's about the same level that we're dialing in our wine. So when you pour it in the glass, it's wanting to breathe, and as you get air into the wine, it's going to unlock some of the aromas, and it'll start jumping out of the glass. It's going to take some of the tannins that are in the wine and allow them to maybe expand a little bit and feel a little softer on your mouth after just a minute or two.
Yeah, it really did.
Cool. What vintage are you guys drinking, by the way?
We got these. We got the 17.
17.
Yeah, lots of 17s. Good.
I'm excited to hear. I mean, you were talking about consistency over the course of the different vintages. So, I definitely am looking forward to visiting your winery and trying not only the different vintages for Barrel Select, but all the different wines that you're producing. Like, there's so much diversity, like you're talking about when it comes to the terroir of Oregon. And I'd be curious to, well, for sure, continue learning more about Scott. Who is Scott, and how did Raptor Ridge come about?
And Anne.
But yes, absolutely. Which, by the way, does she have a glass of wine as well?
She does.
Chardonnay to go with the popcorn.
Oh, okay.
She, just as this started, she did one of her. We have this little thing because everybody shut down out here, right? But we can do curbside pickup, and one of the popular things people do on Fridays is they'll come out to our winery, get a bottle of Chardonnay, and we give them a bag of Orville Redenbacher take-home popcorn because it's movie night, right? So, and it's a marriage made in heaven. So Annie's over there eating popcorn and drinking Chardonnay, and she didn't want to be busted while we're doing a Pinot Noir talk. Sorry to interrupt you.
Busted, but yeah, I mean, this is. Y'all are, and pardon me saying y'all, but y'all are living in Pinot world over there, right? And so throughout the different types of tastings that we've done here through the Austin, Texas Wine Society and through Wanderlust, we've been trying to focus on what makes up our terroir identity. What are some of the varietals that are really successful here? Tempranillo being the highlighted one at the moment. We're going to try some Mourvedre tomorrow. But, you get into the world of Pinot, and Pinot is huge. Like, there's such a cult following for Pinot. And so, obviously, different regions, different styles. So, to start off, kind of like as we continue to dig further into the story behind y'all and y'all's winery, what is the region that y'all, besides Oregon, look forward to uncorking or unscrewing a bottle of sex and captured within glass?
Well, since I was asked this question recently, and my answer had to do with courting Annie, and it was a wine that opened eyes to what this could be, and she ended up marrying me. The answer is Alsace. We love Alsatian white wines, and so it was a Zin Hunbrecht that we shared, and I think she got really excited about not only red wines and Pinot, but white wines. And it's, of course, why we're doing Pinot Gris and Auxerrois here at Raptor Ridge, as well as paying homage to our favorite white wines of the world.
And I don't know how to pronounce it right. Auxerrois are y'all doing that just as a blending? I think you mentioned it. Just as a blending grape or 100% in a varietal?
Yeah, we do. I have started with the next vintage that you'll receive, the 2019 Pinot Gris, blending a little Auxerrois, Auxerrois. It's about 2% of the blend, so it's just like a little kiss of Auxerrois. But most of what we produce from that vineyard is a single vineyard, 100% Auxerrois, barrel fermented in old neutral French oak. And it's, we learned how old Pinot Noir is and how mutable it is. Pinot Noir went on a wild weekend to Vegas with another grape variety called Goulet Blanc. And the two of them have spawned so many cool wines together. So Chardonnay is their offspring. Auxerrois is their offspring. Aligoté, Gamay Noir. So it was a great weekend in Vegas because those are four of my favorite wines.
Hey, Scott, I'm wondering, as Sammy was mentioning, in Texas, we're kind of sort of trying to find what is our wine, what is our Malbec, what is our Pinot Noir in Oregon. How did Oregon come to Pinot Noir? Did you guys go through that process or just sort of land there?
No, it wasn't a sure thing. When the early post-Prohibition, when people started getting into the wine business here, they kind of shotgunned and planted a bunch of things, Pinot Noir among them. Now, I do think the main exponent of our industry came here thinking, this is a lot like Burgundy. I'm going to plant Pinot Noir, and I'm going to plant Pinot Gris. That was David Lett of the Eyrie Vineyard. But then others soon followed, and we've got a pretty robust university system here. Oregon State University methodically went and gathered many types of grape varietals and clones of them and worked with area growers and planted this stuff to see both practically what could grow well and succeed and survive, and then economically, what was there a market for? So in the early days, I mean, we were making more Riesling than anything else. And there's still some of those original plantings of now 50-year-old Riesling that are just killer. And thankfully, Riesling is becoming economically interesting out there in the wine world. So it's trial and error. And Auxerrois was one of those experimental plantings that most of it's been ripped up at this one vineyard. We got a lock on, and we're now Oregon's largest producer of Auxerrois at 400 cases a year. Doesn't take much. So I would encourage, Texas to do the same thing. It's a combination of following your gut and then follow the data. Do the experimentation.
It's also what you do well, though, because a few years ago we had a German winemaker do a dinner tasting, and so most of the wines were Rieslings. But he did bring some Pinot, and I just learned recently that they make a lot of Pinot in Germany. And it was very, very, very weak. I mean, it was cool. And so I said, I didn't know you made Pinot in Germany. And he says, we've been making it for 500 years. And all I could think of is that I think you'd make it better after 500 years.
Yeah, I've had some of that, and Alsatian Pinot Noir as well. But the last time I tasted it was 20 years ago, and I had the same impression. We've tasted some recently, and the climate's changing. Things are warming up, and
that's sad. That's really sad reason.
Northern Italy. There's some. Yeah, Pinot Nero from Northern Italy, Germany, and Switzerland are all making some pretty stunning Pinot Noirs now. Admittedly, on the lighter style, a little thinner, a lot more transparent, a lot more floral, and let's put it politely, very fresh with the acidity.
So would you consider bringing some of those Northern Italian grapes in? Doing some of the Barbaras like that.
Not me. I mean, it is happening in Oregon. There are people that are planting, not Nebbiolo. What is Remy growing? Dolcetto. Takes a little fewer heat units than, say, Nebbiolo, but there's Dolcetto being planted. We just partnered with a neighbor here and planted a couple of acres of Gamay Noir. I think it could be successful. To the earlier comment, you do what you do well, or in our case, we do what we like. Sure. We go visit. We distribute our wines in markets where we like the people, we like the place. So Texas, the natural. We plant and grow the wines that we like to drink. Even though we could do something else, if it doesn't float our boat, then it's not going to keep my attention for very long.
So we do have these other European varietals that really speak well to the diverse tastes that walk in the door. So believe it or not, some people do travel to Oregon who don't like Pinot, or there's one person in this group that doesn't like Pinot. So I'm really glad we have a Tempranillo from Southern Oregon for that particular person in the lineup. And then what we do with these eclectic varietals is we'll do, when we release them, we do events that harken back to the country of origin. So, for example, when we release our Auxerrois, we do Oktoberfest. So we do an Auxerrois extravaganza. We bring in Auxerrois from Alsace, and we also bring in a chef who loves making Alsatian fare and gets really creative with it. So we'll have this whole taste of the homeland that this Auxerrois comes from, and we'll educate our customers about the place of origin. Similarly with the Tempranillo, we do a paella party and we bring in Tempranillos from Spain. So it's really fun to riff on that country of origin and show that Oregon is capable of producing world-class versions of these other varietals.
You guys cook a lot of
What's that?
Do you guys cook a lot of duck?
Oh yeah, and Pinot and duck breast is a classic.
It's a favorite.
My favorite is smoked duck breast with Pinot.
With cherry
reduction glaze.
Yep. Cherry Pinot Noir.
Got to throw some mushrooms in there too.
I'm a confit de canard guy, and luckily my job has sent me to Toulouse a couple times, and it's eye-crossingly good.
Fantastic.
That's a good definition. I like that.
After a half a bottle of the Barrel Select, I'm starting to have more confidence in saying Oxarar. Oh man, I messed it up again. I'm stoked. And we recently had a tasting with Jean from Trimbach, and he showed us his Pinot Noir that they're doing super small batch. But that'd be interesting to I love this Pinot Noir, and I'm more of a cleaner Pinot Noir kind of guy. Like I want to smell that fruit. I want to have that nice medium to long finish, nice to sit. And this one hits for me all the checks that I need, and
it's really good.
Phenomenal price too. The screw cap, of course, like, we're talking about, I work in the world of keg wine and canned wine. So, I'm all about it. And so for the people that would be like, oh, screw this would be the one that I'm like, check this out. This wine is going to change your mind for sure. And, but out of curiosity, what is y'all's angle? Like, do y'all like that funkiness of the Pinot Noir world? Especially going like natural or organic or biodynamic, like whenever you speak about these things, people are always like, oh, what's up, Tony? People are always like, this is Pinot Noir. They love, whoa, look at that view. Where are you guys?
We're up at the Servidog Peak outside of Boise.
Wow. Are you horseback riding or skydiving or what?
Nope, donkey.
we did a hike and we brought our wine.
Is that an Adelstein Pinot Noir? I got a short glance at the label.
Pike Road.
There you go. That second label from Elk Cove. Yeah.
Yeah, there were some folks that unfortunately couldn't get a grab of the Raptor Ridge, so they still wanted to participate in whatever way they could. So in spirit, they got a good Willamette Valley.
You can't be with the wine you love the wine you're with.
Yes,
there you go.
Absolutely.
No, but to your question, I don't like overtly funky wines. There's a process called reduction in fermentation. If the ferment isn't healthy, if it doesn't have enough natural nutrients, if it doesn't have the oxygen it needs, it'll start putting off those funky aromas. And I don't want those. On the other hand, there's a naturally occurring, I think, kind of shroominess, especially with Willamette Valley Pinot Noir. Think more of hints of truffles, not hints of rotten eggs. So I like clean wines too, but I like personality. And so if it has a little bit of truffle note, a little walk through the forest floor, a hint of turned earth, that's good. Beyond that, it turns me off too.
So no Brettanomyces, at least on purpose?
None at all. No.
And Scott, we've got one of our friends on Facebook Live right now, and they were asking, what is your processes for the yeast that you use in your fermentation? Is it just natural yeast? Do you use something? He said he's geeking about that.
It's a little bit of both. Over the years, I've done lots of experimentation with different strains of commercial yeast and developed an opinion about what effect each of them have. And so I'll look at each vintage as it comes in, and we'll select a yeast that's matched to what we think that year is giving us. and what that vineyard is all about. So yes, we'll inoculate, but at the same time, we also do a very extended cold soak. So that means we're destemming the fruit. We're usually harvesting it super early in the morning, so it's coming in naturally cool. We may throw additional coolant into it in the form of dry ice to lower the temperature and drive off the oxygen and protect the freshly destemmed fruit. And there it will sit for 4 or 5 days. And sometimes a natural fermentation will take off. So in about, rough number, 25% of what we do, I'll get a beautiful natural fermentation going. And as long as it smells healthy and it's continuing on a good course, I'll leave it alone. Whereas then the other 75% of it are these commercial yeasts matched to the job.
So with all that dry ice and the cooling, I mean, do you end up getting any carbonic maceration going, or is that just?
No, there is a way to do that. We would need to seal the tank, but this really just forms a little blanket on the top of the fermenter, and through just natural movement of air, it blows off, and so it doesn't really create a carbonic note per se. We do get, I think, some of those carbonic notes from that central core in the fermenter, whole cluster that I put in. I spoke about this earlier.
You were talking about getting cuttings and stuff from France. Is there any reluctance on their part to let out, different kinds of mutations that might do very, very well and come back and compete with them?
The black and white answer is no. It's an academic thing, and there's just professional courtesy among all the folks in the world of viticulture. Taking a scientific approach to identifying the grape morphology and running trials on fermentations and trying to describe the characteristics of each clone, giving it a unique name and number. Nowadays, actually, codifying it through DNA and then if another region wants it or wants to study it, there are processes for taking that cutting through a cleaning to make sure it has no virus, no bacteria, and so it will go through screening before it is then planted in mother blocks. So in the U.S., University of California, Davis runs the foundation plant material. We all just call it the mother block. So you pay for cuttings from them that have gone through what I just described.
Right. Oh, that's cool. Thank you.
Now I said black and white answer because I imagine a lot of people will, as you said earlier, the Pinot Noir in particular is very mutable. And so there are vineyards that will notice sections that have started to change, and they kind of like what they're seeing and what they're tasting. So they'll take their own cuttings and propagate them throughout their own vineyards. And if it's highly prized, I'm sure they're not being all academic about sharing it.
Yeah.
Right.
So in I know in some of the Rhone varietals like Chateau Beaucastel started Casa de Tablas and Paso Robles, and they provide a lot of the sort of Rhone varietal cuttings. Is there someplace like that in Oregon as far as Noir cuttings?
As I was indicating, there are major university systems that have extension service programs that will provide the cuttings. Now, those cuttings go out to either growers like myself or to vineyard management companies or nurserymen who will then do their own grafting and build up plants for sale and provide you their pedigree, their whole lineage, so it's certified that clone and disease free. I was enough to do all my own grafting here, so 20 some years ago, we got rootstock from a local nurseryman that was growing it, and the first 5 years of our existence, we brought in all of our own fruit. So I went to the vineyards that I respected and, with permission, took cuttings and then did all the omega bud grafting and grew them up and planted them here to create the 20-acre totality, which is Raptor Ridge Estate.
A lot of cuttings.
During the winter with my little pinch grafting machine.
This is really nice. I mean, I'm a big fan of Burgundy, but Oregon is absolutely right behind them. And in some cases, I've had just gorgeous Willamette wines. So
I'm noticing, I'm not an expert in Zoom, but I see that there's something popping up in chat. Were there any other questions that I missed?
People are just doing a little cheers, in the middle of our call. But no, this is phenomenal.
Someone sent a chug.
See a chug, send a chug. Yeah, I mean this is awesome, because we're able to transport ourselves to your vineyard right now, even though it's virtually, and feel like we're there. I mean, I did my harvest up there. We're actually Hannah's on the call right now. We were working up in Woodinville, which had to say Michelle and stuff like this. So we're Pacific Northwesterners, I guess. They say y'all up there too.
They do.
But this is, man, the wines up there are beautiful, and where I'm kind of jealous, as we continue to grow through our time here in Texas, or I guess our history of winemaking in Texas, we will continue to grow our understanding of what our identity is. But like we had Ron Yates last week, and he was saying like, love the chaos, love the uncertainty, because there's, this is what makes us unique. You can go down our different wine roads, and then you'll stumble upon all these different wineries that, they're doing so many things like, yo, check this out. I'm doing some Auxerrois. Oh, almost got it there. And, they're like, look at what I'm doing. I'm bringing this. I'm just trying to make things work, and they're giving it their best. And it's always a fun time. And I think what has made us so successful here as the second most visited wine region after Napa, the Hill Country, which is crazy to think, I think is we know how to party down here in the South. And I think we'll continue to find ways. Now, Scott, definitely, I mean, this is an approach to the screw cap. Would you ever consider doing kegs for Wanderlust Wine Company here down in?
We do kegs.
Boom.
Of most of our wines, most of our high volume. So the Barrel Select is available through Serendipity, our distributor in Texas, on keg. They are 20-liter one-way kegs made of recyclable plastic. So when you're done, you just deflate it and send it out with your recycling.
Very cool.
So we do that of the Barrel Select Pinot Noir, the Pinot Gris, the Gruner Veltliner. I think that's what we've done so far.
All right, y'all.
It's great for, obviously, by the glass. You have such little waste, and it's a little friendlier on the planet. All things considered.
Absolutely. We'll have you. We'll feature some of your wines at our site. So definitely come down, and we'll have a good old party, the Texan way down here. Bring your boots for sure. I was gonna, one thing when I was in Alsace, I loved volcanic Rieslings. And you're in volcanic soils right there. So you basically said it's pretty much spread around, but in your experience, because it looks like you even got your wife from some volcanic wine. So now I'm even more sold. What is the best, what sub-appellation, I guess, a sub-region to get the best like volcanic expressive wines there in the Willamette Valley, if you were to say?
One where the soil is quintessentially volcanic and is, I think, the definition of that is the Dundee Hills, or the so-called Red Hills of Dundee. And as I mentioned earlier in my ramblings here, that's where Pinot Noir was first planted in Oregon by David Lett, Papa Pinot as we called him. So I'd recommend checking some of those wines out. And then you talked about Rieslings. There are a lot of growers, wineries here that all or a significant of what they've hung their hat on is Riesling production. Crusadum in the Ribbon Ridge AVA makes something like 18 different bottlings each year of Rieslings, and they're outstanding. Depending on if you want something that's bone dry all the way up to Beerenauslese, sweet Rieslings. He's got everything in between. Also, one of the early pioneers, I consider Harry Peterson Nedray, who planted Ridgecrest Vineyard on Ribbon Ridge. I think it's the first vineyard planted on Ribbon Ridge, and he and his daughter were the founders and grew Shull Winery to its zenith, and then sold it to another bigger winery, and now they're just focusing on that Ridgecrest Vineyard. So I'd recommend looking at their Rieslings if you like those. So yeah, it's not just Pinot all the time here.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Yes, Sammy, I'll bring a bottle of the Gruner and the Pinot Gris by soon, because those are fantastic Raptor Ridge wines. So I'm really happy those are in K.
Let's do it. Let's hit it.
Well, listen, we look forward to seeing you all when things open up again. And until then, virtual hugs, and keep the faith, and stay very, very healthy, and treat everybody with love, because that's what it's all about.
It's been awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks so much, Scott.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Come to us when you can come up here again.
Yes, now I'm craving some popcorn. I gotta go and grab that. But Scott, thank you so much for joining the call. Like I said, you're always welcome here in Texas. We look forward to hosting you and having a master class on all your wines. Obviously, it'll be a little bit more exciting having you as well as Annie, right? Correct? And having Annie, and I'll look for some good Alsatian wines to cheers afterwards as well. Bring it back good memories. But thank you guys so much for your time today. It looks like it's a beautiful day. Enjoy the best hours of what's left. And then for everyone on the call, thank you much. Thank you much. See, this is what happens when you do virtual wine tastings and you have a whole bottle to yourself.
This is still better than last time.
Yeah.
Because we had more than one bottle.
Yes. That's what you're Southern.
We were in trouble last week.
Thank you much for coming down to our virtual wines. But no, I appreciate it, and we wish you guys the best. And once again, we'll look forward to showcasing your wines here at our tasting room. For everyone on the line, thank you so much as well. We'll see you tomorrow. If you're on those, we're featuring a Mourvedre and a Tempranillo from Mr. Randy Hester, and his label is CL Bateau. And then on next week's tasting, we're actually going to have one tasting with Eric from Ready Vineyards, and he was a best of class double gold field blend. So speaking of the diversity of varietals here in Texas, he's got Italian grapes, and he created a beautiful field blend. And so we'll have that in a rosé. It's almost rosé all day season, so we're gonna have one of those.
Very nice.
But yeah, so Scott, Annie, thank you much for joining the call, and I'll stay on the call if you guys want to keep drinking. I still got a half bottle here to continue going down. And
Hey, Scott,
I'm tasting myself this time.
Scott, on behalf of the Austin, Texas Wine Society, I want to thank you for your time. Awesome presentation. The view out there looks gorgeous.
It does.
Stay safe and enjoy y'all's wine.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
everyone.
Cheers. Stay well.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Santé. Yo, what'd y'all think? Crazy, huh? This wine.
Nice. I'm a Pinot fan. I love Pinot, so this was very easy for me to like.
Oh yeah, it's great. I like the fact that I've tried some of the Pinots out there in Oregon, and they're just a tad bit sweet for me. But this one, this knocks it out of the park.
I agree with that. And I'm not sure what attributes that other than the environment or the added tannins, but it has almost like a warm cinnamonness to it.
Oh yeah,
This
very
is
sweet.
more
Nice
like
spice.
pepper-like. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
If I think, having tasted a ton of Oregon peanuts, I used to work there before I worked for a distributor here. There are some that really go big with a ton of new French oak. There are some that go super ripe and go super fruity. I think you could tell from his presentation, from tasting this wine, that he likes a little bit of restraint. He likes to let the land and the grape speak for itself. So it's not over extracted. It's not too much oak. It's got balance. It's got that sort of tannin from the whole cluster fermentation. And so it's sort of a picture of what Oregon Pinot is supposed to be. I really think that's what we're enjoying about it.
Over extracted is not a word I hear about Pinot a lot.
Nope. If you well, I guess if you look at this one, you notice you can actually still see through it, like you're supposed to with Pinot.
Yeah.
Like if you you can read words through the other side of it.
Yeah, it's pretty color too. Yeah.
Right, and I'd say a lot of the biggest scoring and most popular Pinots in Oregon, especially in warmer years, are these like deep dark things. They're not like Maomi or Belle Gloss dark, but they are like they masquerade as Syrah a little bit, and they're fruity and they're full bodied, and they are not and they taste. They have this like sort of sweet like vanilla note, like Richard was just talking about, I think, and that comes from new oak and from like over extracting the skin contact a little bit.
Yeah, but like in hotter years in Burgundy, you'll get a little bit bigger, but it doesn't, doesn't have the new oak and so on and so forth. Because I happen to like a little bit hotter year, which unfortunately keeps happening out of Burgundy. They're just a little bit bigger than normal. I don't like the really light ones. That's just not my taste. So Oregon had always made something just a little bit bigger than the normal Burgundy and closer to a hot year in Burgundy. So I've liked these guys for a long time.
Man, all right. So this doesn't have to be a PG call, right? We're all over 21. Jesus, sex in a glass. Hey, I mean, with quarantine, I'm gonna have to order 2 cases then.
Hey, that was a master sommelier that made that comment. I just loved it. I thought it was right. I mean, and like I said, what were we at? 20 years later, I remember that cover of that magazine. Just call it. I mean, it was just big letters that heaven on earth.
Yeah,
and it's on my bucket list to try.
It's a beautiful, delicate wine. So I can see how that can be. It's just like so romantic. It's the color, like Chris was talking about, the aromas with a nice finish makes you just want a little bit more. That's a problem halfway through. But
you will be there when that gets tasted, by the way.
Excellent.
But going a little off topic, I was learning through this quarantine, obviously the social effects that all this has, and one of the things was saying that overall divorce is going up, and people were expecting that during this downtime, right, social downtime, there would be like the second baby boom happening.
Oh, yeah.
But they were like, no, divorce rates were like boop going up and beating the baby production, baby factory numbers. And then funny enough, like a few days after, one of the largest condom manufacturers had to close down because they were considered non-essential. So I'm like, oh man, they're really trying to like compete right here.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of Christmas babies.
More of these walking around.
Hey! Tell him to pronounce ox errors.
He doesn't get that one yet. So
I'm actually in fairly big trouble. One of my businesses is in France, and now I have both the marketer and the demand manager, both French, and they're thinking, hey, we should just do the meeting in French. And so I've got a month to work up my French enough.
Good luck with that. Google Translate.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I mean, I took it for years. I took it for years, but I'm good about food and wine, not business.
Just use a lot of metaphors.
Absolutely. It'll be the English word.
I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but I work in a distillery, so we get a lot of the industry data. And alcohol consumption in the United States was up last month 58%, and Texas is leading the way.
Woo! Yeah. Let's go. I like that.
It's called Margaritas to Go, man.
They're doing that. They're doing that, right? I think it's like Torchy's is doing that. A few places like that's.
Fajitas. I already had a bunch of them.
El Royo's doing one. Yeah, kit, a margarita kit or something. Yeah.
Dang, so Texas is leading the way. Wow. I mean, you know what? Like from a winery perspective, I mean, we're a lot of the calls that I'll get from these auditors or officials from TABC or whatever, they'll be like, "So what are you doing right now?" And I'm like, "Well, what do you want me to say?" Because there's so much regulation. But then they'll be like, "Well, we'll figure it out." And so that's a beautiful thing to hear, because for the most part, they've always been kind of like that villain right in the picture, but even though they're trying to help. And this is like an opportunity to really come together and say, like, we're in this together. Like, we know you're suffering. We want to make this work. And I think ultimately for the just the environment, for the alcohol industry here in Texas, I think a lot of things are going to change for the better. It's going to hopefully bring a lot of tourism. It'll be interesting, obviously, with COVID, how society changes after all this. But yeah, I'm excited for the future of distilleries, breweries, wineries here. And yeah, Austin, we're not gonna stop being the party destination for a lot of people.
Yeah, it remains to be seen if we can make it through the sort of the economic downturn. I think there's a lot of smaller players who may just get wiped out, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yeah.
If they can make it, I think it'll be good. It'll be a good rebound.
And then the whole like small business relief. I mean, that stuff is out. It's done. I don't know if y'all saw that, but
yeah, I saw they're out of money. I'm going to guess that Congress will refund that pretty quick.
And we'll see.
Somebody had a question about this.
Ooh, Hannah, you still on? That's the book.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the book. It is absolutely fantastic. It's like a Spanish, English, Spanish dictionary. First half of it is the wines and then all the foods that go well with it. And then the second half of it is the foods and all the wines that go well with it.
Oh.
Really cool book.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Hannah and I, to do a quick intro, she's joining us all the way from, is it Boise? Boise, Idaho?
Yeah,
So
Boise, Idaho.
They're actually competing with us. Boise, or I guess Idaho and Texas are rivals right now when it comes to jalapeno wine, y'all. So
You got some of that at the competition.
yes, we did, and I don't know where it came from, but that was disgusting. But
How is that? I've never even.
I've had some really good ones here in Texas. In Texas, like, I mean, maybe I'm biased, but I tasted them and I was like, I love this. Just growing up in the valley where you're used to acidity, you're used to spiciness. Like, it was two things in one, and it was well balanced. But this other one we had at the competition was just, it was like, yeah, no bueno.
But you were a captive audience. Now, I got a question. So there were almost 700 wines at that competition. Did you have to taste all of those, or did you just get like a third of them or something?
We had 6 panels, and each panel was composed of about 4 to 5 judges. And so each was tasting over the course of those 2 days, basically, I would say 300 wines.
So you got at least a little over
just under half, yeah. And for once again, y'all that are on the call today, and even Hannah, I know that you're out of town, but next weekend we've got Ready Vineyards. That's going to be awesome. Like I said, we've got their field blend and their rosé, and so I did not know that Ready Vineyards was the winery that we awarded, but I was within a panel of 3 with 3 other judges, and we gave this wine best of class. And so for me, I really backed this wine up that we're going to be trying. I didn't know it was them until they told us, yeah, it was best of class for the previous wine competition. I was like, that was your blend? Jeez.
That's nice.
So
That's
they're
nice.
they're also giving us a 20% discount on retail price, so that's going to be great. We'll see that reflected on their field blends. It's 2015, so now it's 5 years that's been aging, so it's going to be nice. So I'm stoked about that. And for Hannah, I mean, they'll ship that for $10 flat rate, whatever you order. So that'll be a nice opportunity for people that are wanting to join from out of state or even just out of Austin. Yeah. But that's gonna be a good tasting right there. And then Mourvedre tomorrow, I'll be interested to see if my prediction of it being the second Texas grape, comes through. But we'll see.
I'd like to hear it.
Yeah. So what are you guys? Are you guys eating?
The weather's getting hotter. We definitely because there was Pinot Noir being grown in Texas and made in Texas for a little while. It was not very good. And I think most places have probably abandoned it by now.
I think it was just a little bit hot. You know, it just felt like the acidity wasn't there. It was a little flabby. The fruit was there. Like, you would smell it, you'd be like, oh, man. You know, it's like it's a beautiful woman you meet at the bar. She's got that beautiful amount of makeup, and you're like, yes, she is the one. You start talking to her at the bar, and you're like, hey, what's up? And you're like, oh, man, this is a dead conversation, you know? So that's what our Pinot Noirs were like here, in my opinion. And, you know, I think Tempranillo was it just made more sense to replant for those. But I would love to see.
I like your idea of the Italian, a Barbera or something like that.
Yes.
You know,
what's the grape in the Amarones? No, it's not. It's what's in Valpolicella. It's
Corvina.
Oh yeah, it's Corvina, isn't it?
Oh yeah, Corvina's one of them. Actually, I think there's probably a couple. I think the Corvina is one of them. Yeah.
The thing is, like with Texas, we don't normally.
It's Corvina and Rondinella, I believe.
Yeah.
We don't normally have like aging.
Texas might be able to make a good Amarone.
Yeah. I don't think we have enough of a discipline. I think in Texas, and as Harry was saying, you know, our consumption's up, baby. We love to drink, and we like to drink it now. So the thing is with us, like, I don't know if we have the mindset of aging or like doing these different types of classifications. Like even with our talk with Ron last week, and you know, I think it was you, Richard, who asked him, where you were like, you know, will we ever adapt something like this? And he was like, yeah, we might. Gradations. But I mean, Texan market, I mean, we like to drink it now, for one, and two, we love stuff that's fruit forward, potentially a little bit more extracted than, you know, some people would say, what? Oh, I got an update here. We'll do that later.
Yeah, I mean, I think like a Texas Amarone would do really well if it could get there. But I don't know if you need like cold winters to do that sort of slow drying raisioning, you know, because it's just too hot. You couldn't do it in the hill country. You'd have to do it up in the high plains.
Yeah,
it'd be easier to dry them.
Yeah.
You put them in one of those little, you know, dryers, food dryers.
Yeah,
that'd be killer.
I think the main barrier there would probably just be the growing season. Like Tempranillo does well because it ripens early, so it has enough hang time with a really hot, short season. Right. Like most of those Italian grapes, even though it's warm there, it's not like Texas warm. So they're not going to develop a lot of flavor or character over the short amount of time they'd be given to grow. And that's just that's my low research hypothesis. I don't know for sure, but I think if you're going to do
a reason as any.
Yeah. If you want to do a dried grape kind of big rich wine like Amarone, you could probably do it with different grapes. You might
actually had a late harvest that came out of somewhere in the hill country, a late harvest red, and it was actually pretty good. Maybe it was port-like.
I think, that's gotta come. I think Texas would do so good with some port. And the thing is, like, you try some of our, like in our wine competition that we had, we were tasting a lot of wine, Texan wines. We just knew where they were from and what it was, what varietal was, and it was very oxidized. Like they have people here in Texas, they like either very fruit driven or they like a little bit of that oxidized old world style per se. And I personally like oxidized, especially with port, obviously. But yeah, we'll see what. I don't know if I could focus on that. That would be my jam.
Solera systems could definitely do nicely if you could come up with something a sherry equivalent.
They need. We got the humidity. I mean, just depends where you are, but here we got some of that humidity for sure to help. Man, I'm excited after this COVID. We're all gonna be coming out with super long hair and beard. Harry, you got it growing too. Got Chris beard there too. Jeez.
I mean, yeah.
I think this is the longest I've had it in years.
It's getting a little squirrely.
You gotta get an uptown fade, man.
I mean,
yeah, there you go.
Maybe that Joe Exotic hairstyle, that's coming in hot recently. So I think if Joe Exotic was drinking something, it'd be this wine right here. It's got the perfect amount. And in terms of, sharing, I mean, it's worth sharing with your two husbands. So, I mean, I'm down, That's
what is it?
amazing.
Somebody was saying that Army Hammer now has the Joe Exotic haircut or something like that.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Dang. I was actually driving down one of the hill country roads. I don't know if I can post this here on our group chat, but I took a picture. We have an exotic zoo, y'all. Did y'all know this? It's crazy.
Like, you know, we got a snake farm, man.
We got
It just sounds crazy,
Well,
right?
there's like a safari. There's like a drive-through safari just outside LaGrange.
Yeah.
Like with,
Serengeti Safari.
Yeah, Serengeti Safari with all sorts of, sort of African, antelope and stuff like that, zebras and what have you.
This one's actually called Exotic Resort.
I think that's different.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's not animals.
Definitely taking my Pinot Noir there.
Well, they do have furries.
They got an alligator farm, man. Down in there by you in Houston, South Houston, we got an alligator farm.
Oh, we darn.
Dang.
All right, I'm going to get some dinner. Chez Nous is not open for curbside, so no duck for me tonight.
This would go great with some duck.
All this talk of duck, and I'm like, ooh, maybe.
Yeah.
Is there like a
What
duck?
is it, Belle de Vie, he probably has. You could probably order a duck breast from Belle de Vie, not cooked, but you have to cook it.
Oh yeah, no, it's
Hey, Richard, is the Carolyn open?
Oh, dude.
no, they're not. Oh, that's right. Yeah, they do foie gras too.
Du
So.
foie gras. Yeah. Dang. I wonder if there's a place that sells like duck burgers. That would do. Harry, I think we're onto something. Duck burgers with some Texas grown Amarone. We're gonna be rich.
What was the place that's so there's Tumble 22 that's up there off of Burnett, and it used to be Twisted Root. And Twisted Root used to be, every week was like a different game animal burger, and they had a duck burger one week I was there. I mean, it's like weird. Like one time it's antelope burger, kangaroo burger. I had the kangaroo. It tastes like beef.
Yeah,
had a bit of a kick. Dang. All right, on Rich.
Producing like a chain out of Dallas, right? A small chain out of Dallas.
Twisted Root is 22 that as well?
Well, they're not here, but every week
that Twisted Root ended up closing.
Animal burger,
mammal burgers.
You had the camel burger.
I'm pretty sure I had the kangaroo.
No, you don't expect camel.
Camel.
Man.
But they had a duck burger once, and it was pretty good.
It probably would be, yeah.
Sounds so exotic for a lowbrow food. Use really expensive meat to ground into your burger. But
I mean,
delicious.
$1,000, Wagyu and gold burgers together, in New York.
Right, same idea.
Yeah.
I always prefer a little gold as my favorite. That's my favorite burger condiment, actually.
Yeah. Well, Jake has it on his dessert. I've seen 2 different desserts with gold leaf on it. So
yeah, with some caviar too.
That was caviar before it.
So hey guys,
we need to go back to the Fairmont and go, hey guys, remember us? We spent right before the quarantine.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good time, smoking some cigars and drinking wine.
Oh yeah. And then
there was nobody there. It was just right before right after they canceled South by Southwest. So there was nobody at the Fairmont. We were treated like kings.
What Josh is doing? Are you trying to get your 10,000 steps in?
That was the first time we actually felt like celebrities, because somebody actually came up to Richard and I was like, "Y'all run the Austin, Texas Wine Society?"
Well, that's right.
I was told to come to talk to you. I was like, yeah, man.
He was a fine wine guy from one of the distributors.
Yeah.
Come on, man. No autographs. I'm having dinner.
Yeah, right.
I've had that happen to me. Somebody said, "Hey, I follow you on Instagram. You're always posting about wine," and I'm like, "Yep, that's me."
That's very cool.
Oh, the baby's got a little wine travel case going.
Yeah, he's training for the job.
Hey.
Pushing the bag. That's gonna be fun. He's pushing the bag 30 years before I learned how to do so. So
Bye,
yeah, he's got a head start.
Thanks, Hannah.
I'll see some of y'all tomorrow.
Bye.
No, see some of y'all. Check it out. All right. Next time.
Bye.
Thanks.
And then for those that are still on the call, I'd be interested in kind of getting y'all's opinion. Like, what have y'all liked and maybe would want to see happen more on our calls, you know, with our winemakers, you know, in terms of like the progression of the discussion, you know, what you want to see so that we can work on getting those exciting bits to pop up more. You know, it really depends too on the winemaker and what they've got to share with us. But yeah, what are some of the things that y'all have liked that maybe want to see more of? And I still got to say that
I've liked the variety. I like that we've bounced from Spain to Texas to Oregon and back again. I think that's been really cool.
awesome.
Yeah, I think these are like world tours, man. I mean, I think eventually we need to continue to do these worldwide things.
Sweet.
So I'm under the impression, Sammy, that everybody here is pretty well introduced to wine in general. I'm kind of interested in knowing if there's any people like me that are a little bit more green to all of this, and maybe, yeah, right, man.
Hey, David, I'll be honest with you. We started this thing and we wanted to learn about wine, so I'm about as green as you. I got a little education in it, and we just, you know, it was one of those things that we wanted to.
And that's been half the fun.
And
Think about the different regions and the different varietals.
Yeah, don't feel like, you know, I'm learning. That's why I don't talk too much on these things. I let Sammy's an expert in his field, Richard, and then the winemaker. And a lot of people in the Austin, Texas Wine Society group. If you're not in the Facebook group, join the Facebook group. Feel free to ask questions. I have personally learned so much in the last 9 months that we started this deal. So like I said, I would agree too. I mean, if you come out to the next ones, dude, hang around us. I'm gonna tell you right now, I keep really quiet because I'm still trying to learn. I mean, I'm not an expert by all means.
Well, I guess that was my point. I guess if there is a certain portion who arrived that they're new, I guess who isn't new to this type of experience, virtual wine tasting, but maybe in concerns to what could be added or changed is maybe opening up the floor to anyone such as myself that may be too embarrassed, I guess, to ask certain questions. Because when I mentioned earlier that there was sort of a warmth, almost like a jalapeno pepper, cinnamon warmth to this, I'm used to a very sweet fruit for Pinot Noirs, and this was absolutely good in the way that it wasn't like that. I could drink a whole bottle of this and not get sick of it. It's smoky, it's acidic, and I sort of kind of wanted to ask, you mentioned a little bit about the variety in that valley, kind of like little pockets of, well, there might be this more concentration of this or whatever, but I guess maybe I would say open the floor a little bit to someone who wants to ask questions that quite honestly it might sound stupid, because I wasn't sure if the questions I had were already said by him or anything like this. So
I agree 100% with you, because I'm in the same boat as you, even though I've teamed up with Richard and Sammy, and they've taught me so much in the past 9 months, but I still feel that okay, well, what if I ask this question? I don't want to make it that was just a stupid question. But I like how you thought of that, and we'll definitely open up the floor to introduction of people that are trying to get into wine, because that's definitely one of the things that we wanted to bring to the Austin, Texas Wine Society is attracting new people to wine, because there's a big like educational piece, and there's so many different wines out there, and for me, I love the Pinots, especially the introduction from France, due to Richard, one of the founders that helped us out with this. Freaking just kick-ass wines, and then the Tempranillos of Texas. Getting to know Sammy, who's got Wanderlust Wine Company, who has traveled the world. And the best thing about this group is, we don't want to be like the wine snobs. We want to be like the people that bring in new people that want to learn about wine, want to enjoy wine, and want to experiment with different types of wine and see what they like and ask questions, and just feel like that if you don't want to be the guy in the back that asks the stupid question, but we want people to feel free and open to ask questions about, you may not know much about wine, but somebody does in this group, and they could educate you on that piece.
Yeah.
So for sure, I that's a great idea. Like I said, we'll definitely open those questions up for people that are new to wine, and want to ask some questions that they feel that may feel like a dumb question, but no question is ever a dumb question. So
yeah,
especially when you're drinking, Except, what's your number at the wrong time? That could be a dumb question. But
okay, maybe, but if it's about wine, it's not a dumb question.
Yeah, man, and so that's why I was interested in kind of just getting everybody's feedback, because as we go through this, so we had a few of my friends join in, and so they're all excited to share some good times with some wines, and so depends on the winemaker and for example their I guess how you say involvement within their facility or their experience with their winery. They might be very technically driven to say like this is what you're trying, and so that could get a little bit overwhelming, and then that helps us because then that means it's like, all right, more drinking for us so that we can make more sense of this, and then you're like, well, I think I'm getting this, But yeah, man, overall, it's a nice opportunity to more than anything get to know, I guess, from this opportunity, because Austin, Texas Wine Society, we want to help grow the wine culture here in Austin, and for us to partner to come together and basically show some of these winemakers that we're going to feature at the winery. It's just going to bring you more of that even, I would say, elevated experience. Whenever you come, you're like, oh, yeah, I spoke to him. And you have that, in a sense, almost connection with the winemaker or winery directly because you were in that conversation piece. Mm-hmm. And so then you're like, yeah, I know who made this. It could be kind of cool like that. But, yeah, we're all here to just have a good time. And yeah, I think this weekend we've got a lot of cool stuff. Man, I can't get enough of this Pinot.
Oh, it's so great.
It is so good.
I've had the A to Z, which was a little sweet. And,
yeah.
I'm used to all the French wines that Richard throws out at you, the Pinots out there. And so, as a newbie, I kind of got addicted to the fine wine end of the spectrum. And, so trying some of the Oregon wines, this is actually the first Oregon wine that I'm like, all right, yeah, this, because, I'm not a big sweet guy. I like it, I don't like the sweet stuff. So I'm like, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
And then,
so,
David, I mean, you lived in Oregon, man, and so you had some experience with some cool Pinot Noir from out there. You were telling me Bear Creek, I think, or Bear Boat, something like this.
Yeah, I went around the world ever since, like 2000 when I started working at restaurants, as far as like everything Pinot Noir. And I have full admittance here. I started drinking Pinot Noir really because of the Sideways movie. I guess he had a disdain for Merlot. And it's funny because the first time ever trying it, I think it was just incidental. that I also didn't like Merlot because I just wasn't a wine person yet. And so it really drove me for those fruitier notes, that jamminess, that sweetness. And I've been sort of, enjoying these variations. Now, when I lived in Portland, I was there for about 5 years. I was hitting Willamette after Willamette, and they were all very different. And, and I guess, from what Scott was saying, this now sort of explains that. You've got these different concentrations, you've got this explosion event happening all at once, shaping the landscape, and it's going to create very different wine along that. And of course, he's going to, as said earlier, let it be what it is based off of where it's grown, because there's all kinds of ways to modify it. But I don't recall a Pinot Noir being this, we can see through it, right? But also it is so full-bodied. I'm very surprised by its profile and acidity and everything like this. So that was right away a surprise. I'm getting almost like I've been sucking on a cinnamon stick afterwards, that warmth. And I'm like, I've never had a Pinot Noir like this. And I'm now wondering if I just, I wonder what in that process was different. What did I miss from having all the Willamette when I lived there? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very unique Pinot Noir, very delicate. And I would say, I mean, living out there, we were able to visit the Oregon Wine Society, or the Oregon Wine Organization. So they help promote all the different wineries and wine regions out there. And they were talking about like how it was really hard for any of them to produce good quality wines that were not like superly mass produced under a $30 price range. And this, to me, I mean, this is $23, obviously plus tax, but I was like, wow, from Willamette Valley, you get that freshness, that fruitiness. I actually served mine a little bit warmer than I would have preferred, but it's just, wow, the quality for the price point from that region is very, very cool, very cool. And so now I'm truly interested in, like you were saying, like the diversity of the terroirs. And this is where we become bankrupt, because we keep like trying to start diving into the different regions, but it becomes really cool and geeky to start trying all the various regions and then various styles that exist all within the same state, but just literally like 50 feet away, how drastically the soil can change a wine. And I really, like he said, Dundee Hills, like I really want to see if we can get somebody from Dundee Hills soon, because if he said that's the most volcanic area, I'll tell you what, guys, like volcanic soils will make for such an extravagant wine. Like I can't wait. I'll do some research.
Please.
For sure. I mean, like I said, just listening to Abbott today, Governor Greg Abbott. It looks like we're trying to open up, but we're still going to be in the same situation we're at in the next.
Closed and open.
Yeah, I mean, we're the next thing is going to open up is surgery, but it's still going to be we're quarantined. So I think if we keep on doing different tastings once a week, and just keep it crazy good and different taste of this and different taste of that, I think it'll be pretty good. So
what has he said? Because there's 3 phases, right? And I think
so like phase 1 right now is supposed to start happening next week, but that is, from my understanding, he's going to open up the hospitals to do surgeries, specific surgeries, cancer patients, get that back rocking and rolling, but with certain restrictions as far as maintaining your quarantine distances of whatnot. But and then of course school public education is officially shut down for the 2019-2020 school year, but that's going to keep going as online distancing learning. Retail is going to open up, but it's going to be curbside only. So they're trying to open up some businesses in the next couple of weeks, but it's still, in the same situation of, curbside pickup or kind of like restaurants right now. Parks and recreational sites are going to be opened up with 6 feet distance, no more than 5 people per group. So, we're looking at the next, 20 days, 30 days, probably in the same kind of situation with businesses slowly opening up to, prevent the spread of COVID-19. So luckily, Texas has been not so much affected by it, according to Greg Abbott. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, we just got hope when they do slowly open it up that spread doesn't go even worse. So hopefully, it slowly gets over.
How's it smelling, bro? I'm excited. You know what? It's interesting because when all this is over, we'll obviously have these in-person tastings and experiences, and it'll be way more fun, right? Because it's you're actually there in the moment, and then you're sucking it all in from the winemaker. But I feel
I think people are going to just be so much. We've gotten to screen time, Facebook and Instagram, and I think people are going to, come out and just be I just want to enjoy the moment. I'm just so happy that I'm around people, and we've taken it. We've always taken. You always take something for granted until it's taken away from you. And now it's just been taken away from us for the last 30 days. And I think once this opens up, it's people are going to be oh my God, I'm so glad that I get to hang out with people and communicate, and, I'm in the same room. And so, I'm excited about it.
Dang. But I think these virtual tastings will still stay on for sure.
For sure.
So I think this is a great option.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like to, with everybody's input, but I would like to at least hold one once a month. Maybe we could do it worldwide, around the world. Spain, France, Germany, wherever.
Yeah, it has an air of originality that, you say virtual as a, to tack on the front of everything right now with COVID, but there's something kind of unique about this experience that I can't quite put my finger on. The whole process of, okay, we're going to get it. We're going to be on the same page. We're going to talk about it. It's sort of what I would have thought Web 2.0 would have been like in 2008, but this wasn't happening. The closest you got was Dig Nation, which they would drink beer that they'd order on webcam and talk about what was on Make.com. But it seemed like there should be a lot of more this sort of thing going on prior to this. So it's really cool to kind of see the extent of the necessity to actually do it. Now, I'm in the camp of I can't wait to see people in person for sure. I miss going out and hanging out with Sammy and dancing and stuff like that. So
shout out Barbs.
However, you kind of see how it all works and put it to test, and it would be awesome to have this.
Oh yeah.
Still.
I think the best part is that, you finish your bottle of wine and then you're I'm just going to go and sleep on the bed. My vineyards right here. You guys are seeing it.
I love vineyard, Sammy.
Looks nice and sunny out there.
These are cool. These virtual backgrounds. I just found out how to do it yesterday, and I'm going to keep doing it. For every presentation, just either have
I am not so savvy. I'm hiding in the garage from everybody.
I think.
How do you do this virtual presentation?
So here, I'll actually do my share screen so I can do a step-by-step tutorial. Here we go. From wine tasting to YouTube tutorial. Let's hit it. Let's see. Desktop. Yes. Share. Cool.
Yes.
Oh.
So there's something to be said about hiding in the garage.
And I think you can do it on the phone as well, like in terms of like changing it. Okay, so let's see.
Well, I thought I could involve my daughters, but apparently there's a whole party going on inside, so I'm out here by myself. It's okay.
All right, here we go.
There's a party going on inside the internet right now.
There's a party going on inside the internet, but there's apparently a party going on in there too.
Hey, we just opened up another bottle over here. It's not the Pinot Noir, but man,
So we could share.
You get a chance.
Oh, that sounds good.
That had to happen.
Can you send me an attachment for that wine?
Are you guys able to see my screen? No.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Do that.
I see a lot of vineyards.
All right, so y'all just type in whatever. So like next week we've got Randy, for example. Let's look for a good picture of Randy that I can put in my background. This one looks pretty good. I want like a wild one. This is pretty fun. We actually had Mark Rashup. Actually, he was joining us earlier today. He just did a quick in and out check-in on the group. But Mark Rashup has this cool podcast on Spotify. If y'all ever bored, it's called the Illuminated Bottle right there. He works for a distribution company, import company, so definitely check him out. But I think this is a pretty good one. He's got a little stick pony. I'll get this one right here. But it's a little pixelated. Let's see. Is that him? Is it Warriors? Nah. Is that him? Oh man, Wine Jesus.
Look at you.
All right, I gotta save that one, even though it's pixelated. So we save it. You just right click, save it. You know, you can name it whatever you want. I'll put Randy CL, and then you go back to your screen. Oh, unfortunately, I don't think it'll let me here. Hold on. So basically, now that it's saved here, I'll log off, and so that way I can use it. Ooh. Oh, not like that. Let's see. How do you stop removing? Here we go. There it is, right? No. Okay. Anyway, so now you go down to the bottom where it says video, and you have this little arrow. You click that, and it'll say change virtual background. And then you click that, and then you source a file, whichever one it is that you named, and then you just use it as your background. So easy peasy. Pause share. There it is. Nice. So yeah, so where it says start stop video, there's a little arrow. Choose virtual background, and then that's when you're going to see choose virtual background, and then there's a little plus sign. You click that, you add an image. So I got Randy right here. Ooh, that's not a good one. That one will do for now. I'll play around with it. But that'll be on for tomorrow, so that way we have a little cool way to greet Mr. Randy.
Looking forward to meeting him.
Yeah, he's a really cool cat, and then just he'll talk more about it, but he was producing wine for one of the big producers of California in the cult wine category, Colgan. I mean, these bottles are going for like 500, 600. They did a tasting at my other full-time job, and David, I think he tried it, the Colgan. That was killer. So. Those are like $500, $600 bottles, and actually I got a bottle of his right here, and that's only a 48. So it'll be interesting to try. All right, what's up, man? But all righty, y'all, about to log off. But
all right, well, I appreciate everybody. Thanks for coming out. Join us tomorrow, and keep looking on the lookout for our meetings. Wanderlust Wine Company with Sammy, Austin, Texas Wine Society. We throw in these things every week. So looking forward to the next one tomorrow at 2, right?
Yes, sir. And change your backgrounds.
All right.
Y'all stay safe.
With you tomorrow, but I'll be with you next week.
All righty. Sounds good. Cheers. Oh, there it is.
Woo!
Later.